What's that? Oh, we're not. Thank you. So we'll keep it light. I'll ask you about SP3s. Hey, good afternoon, Chris. How are you?
I'm very good. Good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, welcome to Blue. What do you think of CineGear so far?
CineGear is always a great show, and it seems especially vibrant, lively this time around. It's a nice start. A nice morning so far.
Isn't it awesome? Like, Universal, we haven't been here in so long. I think it was like 15 years since the last time we were at Universal.
I think that's what it is. There's an energy because everyone's excited to be back at Universal for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and it's really cool to be on set with like historic stages, and this is where our industry, thrives, right?
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's palpable. You look around, you're like, oh, Frankenstein walked over there, and Wicked was shot over there,
Yes.
and it's great to be around all that, and then it's just great to see the people that
Yes.
that you haven't seen in a while. It's wonderful seeing people from out of town in South America, things like that. Welcoming here, so it's always wonderful.
And I love CineGear because it's a different vibe than going to other trade shows. This is more networking. It's very relaxed. And
It doesn't feel like trade show at all. No, I think sometimes a trade show can feel like a flea market. You're selling. This feels more like your homey, like farmer's market.
Yes.
Where like everyone's friendly, everyone knows each other. It is obviously a trade show, but it's more warm, much more warm than that.
Yeah.
And both emotionally and physically. It's almost summertime, so it's heating up.
and we got just this amazing group of community people that come and join us, right?
Well, that and the community's really evolving here too. A few years ago, this was a venue for professionals only, and now that the professional feature narrative, a premium filmmaking level. Now that spectrum has gotten so wide, you're seeing creators from every walks of life. You're seeing people that are new to the industry that have just as much validity as veterans now. That's because whether they're they can go viral with something, or whether they have insight that not everybody else has. And so these days, I think the whole industry is a lot more open-minded and a lot more open.
Even just 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. I feel like I think that there was a lot of things that kind of opened it up. We've had a lot of world changes around, and do you see that shift towards that middle ground, that creator space to be a positive, or just something different?
Do I see it as a positive? Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's I don't think anyone could admit they're not watching more of their phone than ever.
Yeah.
It's a valid venue for great content.
Yeah.
I think it used to be dismissed as lower end content, but now it's competitive. And now we're choosing things like YouTube on our TV instead of YouTube on our phone. But it works both ways, because now we're choosing films on our TV instead of cinemas. Then there's always going to be there's kind of this place for everything right now, and we are still finding and discovering that.
And it's really exciting what's happening to Cooke. Cooke, it has been traditionally renowned for glass. I mean, exceptional glass, and you continue to innovate. Now, tell us about the SP3s.
SP3s were our entry into that expanding creator space. The SP3s optically perform like our vintage speed Panchro lenses. They have this beautiful warmth, beautiful focus fall off that gives you a nice differential between your center focus and your edge focus. These lenses give you 100 years worth of cinema in a compact form that can now apply to Sony FX2 cameras.
Yes.
Where you're bringing an aesthetic that we associate with premium narrative filmmaking and giving it a much wider, playground to be in. And it's finding users and finding, space that we didn't know existed. It's growing so much more exponentially than we had plans for, that it's wonderful. It's teaching us
That's awesome.
the student has now become the master.
It's amazing, right? Like that's a really cool thing because traditionally, when I think about Cooke, it's unobtainium to me. When I was starting up as a filmmaker, but now I have this ability to not only have a small compact lens, but also affordable. You know,
Yeah.
and so is this like a direction that Cooke is looking forward to?
Yeah, just like with cameras, going both ways. Sony can balance the Venice and they could balance the FX cameras. We're finding we have to do the same thing. Just and not just the cold way of looking at it is for business. Oh, we have to do this because it makes good business sense. No, that's where creators are going.
Yep.
So the FX series of cameras and SP3s are a good example of us following narrative, following stories, following people. It's not necessarily just about the technical aspects of it. If anything, SP3s are a stripped down version of what we've been doing the last few years. In a lot of ways, I think people looked at it as, oh, it could be a step back. It didn't include eye data. It has a simpler cam follower focus system. But taking those things away, we made it so much more accessible on the
Absolutely.
onset, and now we have a place for new filmmakers to find Cooke.
Yeah. So let's talk about the new filmmakers, right? So the filmmakers that you're finding on set, this next generation, how are they? Is there any difference between those filmmakers and what we traditionally see as a filmmaker?
New filmmakers are always going to have fresh eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to see and play off of things that old filmmakers just don't have to deal with. I think what's nice. It sounds nice to be an older creator because you're probably set in your ways.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I shoot with this lens, I shoot with these cameras, I shoot with this crew, I shoot with these lights. I do the same thing every project, and it's no issue. When you're new, you don't have that like placatancy. You can actually, oh, I saw this new thing. I saw, people are really interested in long oneers right now, and you talk to a veteran and it was like, well, I didn't even consider oneers because the Steadicam kind of hurt my back when I was an operator for 10 years, so I didn't want to do that to my operator. And we were still shooting with film mags back then, and so we had limited takes, limited quantity to work with. And now you could have something like Adolescence, where you have an entire show made of oneers. I mean, if something like The Studio, where you have 7-minute long oneers and a whole episode as well. And so it's different. Things are actually moving. They're more dynamic now than they ever have been.
And also, like they are so astute technically now.
Oh,
I think because of the amount of information that's available to everybody, they are now more technologically advanced than previous generations.
That
right?
information used to be so much more guarded.
Yes.
And so and it would trickle down to the masses in little bits. But you're right. The technique and expertise of new filmmakers far surpasses previous generations. They know so much more, which is why I think I'd say the important thing that new filmmakers should probably focus on more than the technical aspects these days is story. Story is now the hard part. That's the part you really need to wrap your head around. It still takes experience and it takes a nuance to tell good stories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where new filmmakers should probably put their focus on, because technical is easy now.
Yeah.
And it's available.
And it's easy to create relatively easier to create shorter, beautiful shots. But when you're compiling it into a full feature, and then telling a story and having depth of like character and using the tools that you have on hand, that takes years of experience to do that.
I feel like right now AI is like a good analogy.
Mm,
AI is, has you run into problems with AI use with consistency, and
mm,
maybe that's sort of the issue between more experienced filmmakers and younger filmmakers. You have to sort of apply parameters and stay consistent in your story, and that's hard. It's
it
hard to
is.
stay
Yeah.
consistent
Yeah.
and make sure everything cuts together well.
Yeah.
And that's where you'll find, oh, you can't really switch. I can't shoot half the movie with Sony and half the movie with a Black Magic and expect it to cut together too well.
Yeah.
You know.
No, absolutely. Well, we're at a standpoint in our industry where things are shifting
Mm-hmm.
quite rapidly
Yeah.
and quite heavily. What do you see us in about 5-10 years? Like, what do you see in this growing shift? Like, what do you think where we're going?
I think content is going to be made faster. I think there were demands before that couldn't be met due to time and restrictions, due to kind of conservative workflows, long post production times, for instance. And so it's not necessarily, unfortunately, it might not be an improvement on premium content's quality, but I think the speed is going to ramp up. I think both big and small, you're going to want fast. Faster is the name of the game right now, and so a younger generation has an edge up on that. If you understand speed and delivery, then you understand the demands of a content eating market and what's out there and what needs to be done. So things will get much faster in the next 5 years, whether that's AI assisted workflows, whether that's more streamlined, say, resolution parameters. There used to be sort of resistance to, say, upgrading from high def to 4K because no one wanted to deal with those workflows. I think we'll have to dismiss those,
Yeah.
and we'll have to find solutions for that to go as fast as possible.
That's awesome. As far as like coming from Cooke, coming from a manufacturer, um, do you find that there are new ways that people are requiring their gear to perform that you guys are thinking about? Like, say, vertical video is a thing now, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't even be talking about that 5 years ago. Like, I think that it was a separate segment, but now, even in the feature side, we're seeing some short films done in vertical, which is interesting.
I take vertical pretty seriously.
Yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball into vertical,
Right.
but I think it's here to stay. I think it will get better. I think we'll all find our vertical channel. Not everybody's. I don't know about you. I don't subscribe to right now.
Yeah.
Appealing enough. There we go. If Jordan Peele's going to get in, I'm going to start a horror-based vertical. I subscribe in a heartbeat. I'd want to see that. Yeah.
Right.
We're bringing back the Zone or something, which he did a few years ago. He hosted, and it's short. It's sort of a matter of flavors.
like feature films,
Mhm.
which is an interesting transition too. Do you have any like piece of advice for these guys that are coming up into this world that has traditionally been very exclusive, but we're seeing a lot of people demanding their style, demanding that kind of thing. What do you say to that?
I'd say, you kind of have to know yourself and then know your medium.
Mm,
What value do you bring to
mm,
it?
I love that.
Watch older films too, because you'll be surprised. Sometimes I'll stumble on like Turner Classic Movies and I'll watch an old musical, and they're moving the camera more than a new Apple TV show.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wow, they had this down.
Yep.
And that camera weighed 80 pounds
Yep.
and was on a huge crane. And the choreography, the skill level is
Plus, the operator was on there too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was off the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, what they had to move, throw Technicolor in there, and then you're tripling the
Yes.
size and weight of everything.
Yes.
And so, be comfortable taking inspiration from some of that older stuff, because they had this down back then, and sometimes some of that stuff got lost along the way. And so, find inspiration from everywhere you can get it, and then, bring your own, flair to that storytelling too. How can I just add a little bit of edge to this and make this my own?
I think that's the key right there. I love what you just said. Just to reiterate, is that find yourself, find what your voice is gonna, what kind of flavor your voice is gonna add to the story.
Mm-hmm.
But then don't forget to look back, because people have paved the way already for 100 years creating films, right? Over 100 years.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so there's a lot that's been done, and then there's still a lot to come. The tools are different now,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the principles are the same. And so essentially, and I love that you said musicals, because my wife and I love musicals, and the way that they move the camera and the choreography and everything, it was precision.
You
Right?
watch some of those old MGM musicals,
Yeah.
and it is wild what
Yeah.
they're doing. And then I like it, especially from a lensing perspective,
Sure.
because not only are they whipping this gigantic, heavy camera around,
Yeah.
they're keeping your eyes focused on exactly what they want it to.
Amazing.
Whether it's a kick line or a character doing a specific move. I mean, it's really like, that's firing on all cylinders sometimes, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
And there's no preview.
no. Right. There's no video village. There's no
no video
monitor.
village,
There's no,
It's
they
literally
didn't-
the operator and the DP and the director trusting that the operator is getting it.
Yeah.
And you find out the next day if they did.
Not only that, yeah, even if they had a viewfinder, the way a traditional film optical viewfinder works, you're not even seeing what the film is seeing.
Yes.
You're seeing the opposite. You're seeing other frames.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
seeing in between the frames.
You're correct. Yeah. So you need to really anticipate.
Yeah. It's like shooting blind. So we're all very fortunate we don't have to shoot that way.
Right.
But no, I think it provides the foundation for this, and so narrative, we have great foundation for this kind of research, and we can apply it. But I'm excited too for creators that are creating non-narrative as well. Like,
Yes.
I put an emphasis on that because that's where our roots are, and we've kind of helped define that look over the years. But I'm excited to see all types of content across the board.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think I'm most excited about, is the things I'm not really expecting. Like verticals, which I didn't take seriously 5 years ago, and
No.
now it's like, it's happening.
It's happening, right? It's crazy. The exciting part to me is that because of the tools that are available, I feel like the filmmaker doesn't have any excuse, right? I think that the only they have is probably themselves.
Yes and no. I think the something I think we all take for granted is that, one of the earliest film studios was the incarnation of Paramount before it became Paramount. It was called Famous Players in Famous Plays. So it's story, and you have talent.
Yeah.
And so if you're going for narrative, you better make sure you still have a damn good story to start out with.
Yes.
And talent is still king.
Yes.
And so you could have all the equipment in the world, and we make wonderful equipment. You make wonderful equipment, but you still need good talent out there.
I agree.
And so I think a lot of filmmakers are like, why isn't this working? Why doesn't this look good? Why isn't this? I watched all of Filmmakers Academy like videos. My lighting is perfect, but you still need good talent.
I completely agree.
That's going to keep an audience member from looking at their phone. And if it's on their phone, it'll keep them on that app.
I agree. Yeah.
Talent is big.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. These are awesome.
It was
words,
nice. Thank you for
Chris.
having me.
Yeah, and we're so happy to be working with Cooke, and we hope that we will do more together. This is an exciting future for us.
I'm excited too.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Charles, that was excellent.
Thank you. That was excellent, dude. I love that. This is why we love it.